This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here. Now be sure to watch Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV by subscribing on YouTube and following them on social media for all the latest Leicester City news and information. Come on you foxes!
Strap yourself in because we're set up, switched on and ready to go.
Eight, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
Good evening, fellow Fox fans. How are we? Still happy? Come on, it's not been a bad season, has it? But we're still not. You thought you were going to get rid of me for the summer, didn't you? You thought you were going to get rid of me, but no, like a bad rash, I'm back already. We're going to be doing specials during the summer, basically. And tonight's the first one of them. This is Leicester Till I Die TV. You catch us live on YouTube, Leicester Till I Die TV. Please help us and subscribe. It does help the channel and it helps Leicester Till I Die a lot. We're on Facebook, the group Leicester Till I Die, and if you live in the Twitter sphere, we are on at Leicester TID. That's who we are. Just in case you needed reminding. So what we're going to do tonight? Well, we're going to be rating the players. It's been a good season all in all, but what do you think of the individual players? Average, good, brilliant, see you later, or bad? Let us know. We're going to go through them. I've got a couple of chat chums in with me that's going to help me decide. They're going to have a vote, and I'll probably have the decider if they don't agree. And you know, we're football fans, so the chance of them agreeing might not be that strong. But let us know in the comments what you think of each player as we go through it. But let's welcome in. The first guy, of course, you know, he's back from turning wine into water and feeding the 5,000. Brad, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Chris. How are you?
Not too bad. Having had the first jab, I believe.
Yeah, I've had that. So I've just got to wait now for my second appointment to get rearranged. But it's half the step there. So
can I just say that makes me feel really old because I've had both. So either I'm very old or you're very young. And I don't know what this guy falls into, but Matt, good evening. How are you, sir?
I'm probably somewhere in the middle of you two, age-wise, I reckon. I'm good. I'm good, guys. How are you two?
Not so bad, thank you very much. This is Matthew Mann. If you're wondering who he is, he's been on the show before, but he's first of all, you've heard me promote a lot the Minding My Own Football Business book by Barry Pierpoint, Leicester's first chief executive. He helped produce that, but he also wrote this one himself, What If? And alternatively, not easy for me to say. I'll try that again and put my teeth in. An alternative history of Leicester City. Briefly, just tell us about it, Matt, because it's a bit of a different book, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's so we all know the history of Leicester City. This book explores what didn't happen, but what might have. So, for example, what would have happened if Knockaert had scored that penalty back in the semi-final against Watford, when he obviously missed and Troy Deeney scored and we were knocked out of the playoffs. Had we gone up that season instead, how would things have been different for Vardy, Mahrez, even Harry Kane, who was on loan with us at the time? So it explores loads of different things like that. What would have happened if Cruyff had joined? What if Heskey and O'Neill had stayed back in 2000? So it's a very different book, a bit of fun, but there's also quite a lot of factual stuff in to learn as well.
It's a really good read. Well, as you can see, I've got it there. It's a really, really, really good read. Just tell people how they can get it, Matt.
So you can get it from bluearmypublishing.co.uk. It retails at £15, or you can get it from mindinmyownfootballbusiness.co.uk, where you can also pick up Mind in My Own Football Business.
Good, nice one. I do feel like Michael Parkinson here, allowing the plug going first. But no, seriously, it is a good read. Right, so tonight, guys, it's been a good year all round. You can't say it's been a bad year. Maybe a little bit disappointing at the end, but basically 5th for the second season running, Europa League for the second season running, and FA Cup winners all in all. But the question is how did the players perform in your eyes? Because there were some excellent performances, probably some below par performances. So we're going to go through the players here, and we're going to rate them. And fingers crossed that this is all going to work. And it is. Yeah, there we go. Right. So, Brad, let's start with yourself, and let's start with Casper here. How would you rate Casper?
Oh, I've come out numerous times and said there's not many keepers in the English Premier League I could think to put in front of him. Edison, Alisson are the only two obvious ones that spring to mind, but I'd have him as the third best keeper in the Premiership. He's been pivotal, dodgy kick here and there, we all know that, but I'd put him as up there in the top column, mate. I would put there as he's been brilliant. He's been fantastic. He's held us together at times.
Now, I would have thought that, Matt, but looking at the stats, and I know, and I'll say this to you because I know Brad doesn't like the stats, but he has kept us in so many. And sorry, Brad, but I've just got to. Sorry, Matt, to get you out. I've just got to bring this one up because this is so true. Has Brad been on a desert island? He does. He does remind me of that film. What was the film with Tom Hanks in? Oh, God, I can't remember. I don't know. Castaway, that's it. You do have a bit of a Castaway look to you, but actually, Wilson. And I know it's not just all about the goalkeeper, but Schmeichel was 7th in the table of the most goals let in for the season. He let in 50, which was more than the Fulham, the Villa, the Newcastle goalkeepers. But I suppose, Matthew, a defender's only as... In fact, the Brighton goalkeeper was 2nd in the table. But I suppose a goalkeeper's only as good as the defenders in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to look at Schmeichel with and sort of flip it on its head. How many points has he won us? How many times has he kept us in the game? You've only got to look at the cup final. Those 2 saves that he made were just as important in my view as Tielemans' goal. I think Schmeichel I think he's the best shot stopper in the Premier League. I'd agree with Brad about you've probably got Edison and Alisson above him, and that's purely down to the distribution. Schmeichel's distribution is the bit that I think lets him down, and it's probably what's kept him at Leicester over the years, to be honest.
And Alisson obviously is not bad with the old headers as well, is he?
Yeah.
No, he gets a 20 out of 20 on these headers, Alisson.
Yeah. So are you agreeing with that then? Are we going brilliant for Casper?
Yeah, I think it's his leadership as well. For the Spurs game, I was sat right behind the goal, and because there weren't as many fans there as normal, you could really hear what the players were saying. And Schmeichel was so vocal. I think he brings a lot more to the game as well, rather than just his shot stopping.
I've heard rumours, Brad, that obviously with Wes retiring, that Casper might become club captain, and there'll be another captain, an outfield player, as captain on the pitch. Would you go along with that? I know you're a member of the Goalkeepers Federation, but
well, yeah. I mean, to my knowledge, Wes Morgan's been like the backroom staff captain. He's been the captain on the training pitch to rile them up, to get them going. But he's not played at all this season. In fairness, so Casper's always been that keeper-esque sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I'd argue that if he doesn't get it, and we keep hold of him, Rodgers seems to like something in Tielemans being captain. So I'd say if captain does go to Casper as we expect it, the vice captain might be Tielemans for next season.
Yeah. Only kept 11 clean sheets. He made 2.3 saves per game, and I think he does deserve, like Matt said, for those games that he kept us in it. I think he deserves to be in the brilliant folder, shall we say. Difficult one now, and I'll come to you first this time, Matt, because we're looking at Danny Ward. Not had many games this season, but I think he had a couple early on, didn't he?
Yeah, it's difficult to know where to put him between the good and the average, because when he's been called upon, he's always done a job, but then he's playing in the cup games against lower league opposition in the main. He's also playing behind slightly different back four to our strongest one. I don't know if he's actually played a Premier League game for Leicester. I know he hasn't this season. I don't know if he's played one at all. So he's a good backup goalkeeper. I don't know if you can put him in the good based on what he's done for his appearances. I don't know, maybe an average if you're looking at him as a player, as a squad member.
I haven't actually got any stats for him, to be honest with you. Let's just see. He's played. No, I haven't got. He's played, I think, one game in the EFL. That's about it. But I don't know. He's in the squad, and I guess we've got to look at him. Brad, can you add anything to that? Because I think we're both struggling here.
Last season, he was the cup goalkeeper. For the majority of it, he probably would have got a good then. It's hard to give him a rating at all, really, isn't it, this season? Because he literally had that one game. I think the emphasis on winning a cup was very strong, and don't chance it in goal as much as I trust Danny Ward in goal for some of them games we had in the cup. Casper was the choice pretty much throughout. So aside from putting him in non-applicable, I think he has to go in average because he did his one job. Well, not really, but he didn't do bad, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he had 4 passes in or 5, but he couldn't really do anything this season. He didn't get a sniff, so we'll just put him in average.
It said he had 2 games for us and 2 wins in the FA Cup. I don't remember those, but I'm getting old. Maybe that was obviously right at the start. And he had a couple of games in the UEFA League as well. 1 win, 1 loss. So, I suppose he's turned up when. Now, I've got to be honest with you. I think the best thing I can say, I don't know if you agree with this, Matt, is if Casper was to get injured, I wouldn't worry about Danny Ward coming in.
No, I think he's proved, hasn't he, from the cup games. And he played a couple of games the season before, didn't he? I know he played against Man City. We got to the League Cup quarter final, and so when he's been called upon, he's done a job. It's just that he's not really had that many opportunities to test himself. I hope you're not coming to Djokovic next time. We've got to rank him.
Thankfully not. Thankfully not. He's one of those players that, bless him, you forget he's there, don't you? With him. So we're gonna give him average, which I think, to be honest with you, is no disrespect to him. But like I say, it's difficult to judge him maybe on the few games that we've had. So, Brad, come to you. Djokovic. No, I'm joking. That would have been funny if I had got him, actually. James Justin. He was my player of the season on the games that he played, so you probably got some idea where I would put him. Unfortunate with injuries, but go on, Matt. Brad. Where would you put him?
He's got to go in brilliant. He was a shoo-in for the Euros. There was not a sniff, even with Luke Shaw's turn of form. The way he was doing that left-hand side for us was absolutely phenomenal. And I moaned that we were paying 12 million for a League One player, essentially, because he hadn't kicked a ball in a championship. What do I know? If this was on his season, I couldn't put him there, but this is on a performance. And for what we saw of him, he was going to Euros. He was one of the most certain names on there in a lot of people's books. He was brilliant, and it's so cruel that he got injured.
It was Matt. He made 23 appearances, 13 wins, 4 draws, 6 losses. Scored 2 goals. Let's not forget, he scored a couple of good goals and kept 9 clean sheets in that. You've got to have been impressed with him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that goal against Stoke was fantastic, wasn't it, in the cup? And that goal alone was well worth the medal that he won. I think for James Justin, last season when he joined, it was a transitional year, and he was a little bit up and down. Didn't perhaps have the consistency. This year, I don't think he was probably expecting to be a first choice fullback. I think Castagne and Ricardo were the plan, but because of injuries, he got his opportunity. And he just grasped it with both hands. I think he's been absolutely fantastic. He looked the real deal. His versatility is incredible as well, because he was equally comfortable on the left and the right. And I agree with Brad as well that surely he'd been off to the Euros if it wasn't for his injury. So he's a fantastic season. It's just a shame for him that it ended the way that it did.
Indeed. So we're going for brilliant, guys.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Wow. I have a feeling that row, quite rightly, this year is going to get full. So Brad, back to you and a certain Mr. Wesley Fofana.
Is there a supernova category?
I can create one.
So seriously, make a supernova category, 30 odd million for a 19-year-old. I know he's 20 now, that plays like an experienced Champions League winner. That's what his level is. I'm not even joking. There's not a single fan of an opposition that I've spoke to this season that doesn't want him in their team. Get a supernova category, Chris. Get it made for what? Call it the Wesley Fofana standard and drop him in that if you want, because he's been brilliant. I'll keep it that short for you. I'll give you that if you want, Matt.
That's the most concise you've been all season, mate.
Yeah.
Matt, he made 51 tackles, 73% successful, 61 interceptions, 181 recoveries. There's nothing you can add, is there, really?
No, I mean, he was immense in the cup final, wasn't he? Nothing was getting past him. I think this season, you have to kind of remind yourself that he is only 19. The way that he's adjusted to the Premier League is just incredible. When you think about experienced players like Timo Werner, Kai Havertz, internationals, and they've come over to the Premier League and struggled to adapt. And Fofana's come in from the French league. It's supposedly a farmers league, and he's just looked like he's been here forever. He's got the potential to become one of the best defenders in the world. And it's not just his tackling, his defence. He's got that Harry Maguire-esque ability to bring the ball out as well, and almost act as a kind of a sweeper. So he's a brilliant player. You can't put him anywhere below brilliant.
That's a name from the past. Harry Maguire, wasn't he one of the players that left to win silverware? Oh, yeah, I wonder how that worked. Melina, thanks very much. Melina's in here modding for us. I actually that bottom row there, maybe I should have changed that to rather than see you later to Arsenal standard. Yeah.
Oh, come on now, come on. Behave.
Actually, in fairness, there's an Arsenal channel earlier, and I think it was This Is Luca's Life, and he was doing the same as I'm doing now. And I was expecting him to come back on mine, because I was on his going like, did any Arsenal player get above a 0? So far, he's not come back at me. Matt, our Turkish delight there, Soyuncu.
Okay, so I think
that's worrying if you start with okay.
I think it depends on whether you're talking about the Soyuncu who plays alongside Evans or the Soyuncu who plays when Evans isn't in the team. because I think he's a very different player. With Evans, he's definitely in the good, kind of approaching brilliant. Without Evans, he worries me a bit sometimes. He seems to have a bit of a mistake in him. So I'd probably say overall, I would give him an average for this season, probably because he set expectations really high after last season's performance. This season, without Evans, I think he has struggled a bit, in my view, and that's a bit controversial. I think he's a fantastic player, and he's only going to get better because he's also young. But he worries me sometimes.
27 tackles, Brad. 63% were successful. 91 recoveries. 63 aerial battles won, and a couple of Pele-esque moves fell flat. Where would you put him?
I have to actually agree with Matt to a lot of what he said, because when he's been brilliant, he's brilliant. Don't get me wrong, he's up there. He'd been, if he kept his consistency, got rid of the Cruyff turns, he'd been good. He'd go straight in the good category. But Matt's right. When he's not with the right partnership, or not in a structured three, where he's maybe got that wise head telling him to doing what he's doing and telling him to think before he leaps, because he seems the one that likes to go careering forward if Evans isn't on the pitch and leaves a few gaps, and he hasn't really changed too much from how he was last season. You felt that if Evans wasn't there, he wasn't at his best. So yeah, I'd have to throw him in the average category, I'm afraid. Soyuncu is probably one of those that's a twinge bit disappointed with how he's been throughout the season.
So we are putting him, and I can't disagree with you there. Like you say, it was a case of which Soyuncu was going to turn up. Okay, Brad, we're going to stick with you here, and the guy is a leg end, as they say, but he's hardly played. But he did start, a few games or play a few games at the start of the season. Always had an.
Oh, what's going on? It's completely froze.
Yeah, Chris is gone.
Yeah, Chris is completely froze. I thought it was me then.
Yeah, should we carry on with Morgan then? We'll wait for Chris to come back.
Yeah, we'll try and sort that out while Chris is sorting out his technical issues. I don't want to get pitchforks and bricks thrown at my window, so I kind of want to rate this on his overall season. I think he deserves the respect, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think when you're looking at Morgan, you've got to look at Fuchs as well, and I think you've got to look at their career at the time at Leicester, because I think it's the right time for them both to leave now. But what they've achieved and what they've given to the club, you can't give them anything other than brilliant, can you?
No, you can't. Because if you're going to judge him on in this season, I would probably say that when he stepped in, Fuchs did really well. And unfortunately, if it weren't for a flag offside, the only thing that Morgan's come on the pitch to do was nearly put one in his own net, I believe, in the final, because that goal was deflected off him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So if I was going on performance, I can't put Morgan in like an average or a poor, and I can't put them on performances in like a good or brilliant, but they weren't. But yeah, I think for these two, you got to make a special exception and put these in the category for brilliant, just for the service for the club. We've had a few like that, haven't we? They kind of remind me of Walsh and Elliott in the server to the club and what they've done. I mean, it's a strange one, isn't it, when you think about it, when you've got to rate a player like that, because you're instantly wanting to put them in the good category for that reason, aren't you?
Yeah, I think we've got to look to what they bring off the pitch as well. So, I mean, we've already spoken about Fofana. I'm pretty sure that Morgan will have been doing some work with him in the training ground and the dressing room. And I'm sure that Fuchs will have been doing the same for Luke Thomas as well, and helping the development of the next generation. And I mean, when Morgan joined, I mean, he came from Forest, and he said on the pitch after the Spurs game that when he joined Leicester, his ambition was to get into the Premier League. He never thought that he would ever have a chance of winning the Premier League here. And the fact that he's led the team through that, he's led the team off the pitch to the FA Cup, and the fact that when he came on, he did a job, didn't he? He did what was asked of him. The goal was offside, so he came on, he shored up the defence, and you can't give him anything less than either of them anything less than brilliant for their service.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm obviously, as you know, probably one of the younger foxes that in the group, member-wise, and obviously on this show, Matt. So you've probably only got a few years. I'll be nice to you and just say a few years more time watching the Foxes than I do. But if you could maybe take a player from the 90s. He's back.
Okay.
Just trying to make some content fly.
I hoped you'd gone through about 10 players while I'd gone away. Let me just open this again. I had to literally restart from scratch, so my apologies to both of you guys there. Thanks for talking away. I think we're going to have to probably start this again, to be honest with you. So let me just get it up. Did we decide on Mogan, by the way?
Yeah, we decided to judge him on a career rather than his season, because it'd be unkind to put his season down in a door note. You know, his season down in a door note it's a special occasion. I think him, and we've agreed as well with Fuchs, to give him a special rating and put them in the brilliant, because what they've done for a club throughout has been brilliant. And hopefully Morgan takes a deal to work alongside upstairs. Was sort of the consensus thing that me and Matt came to, because we were saying they were like Walsh and Elliott for what they did for the club.
Yeah. So we had Fofana was in brilliant along with Casper. I'm trying. It's gone out of order now for me, just to annoy me. Oh, my mother told me there'd be days like this, you know. So where's Morgan? What were we putting him in? Brilliant.
Yeah, we're putting him in there.
Yeah, and along with Fuchs as well.
Yeah. For the same reason.
Same reason, special, isn't it? They deserve it.
I'm trying to think who else we talked about.
Soyuncu was an average. Soyuncu was average.
Sorry, mate. There you go. Did we discuss anybody else?
I think
that was it. Yeah. I'm sure if you name him when we tell you, we've already done it.
Justin.
James Justin.
James Justin.
He was brilliant, wasn't he? Yeah, brilliant. Guys, thank you so much for carrying on there. I'm a bit worried now about my laptop, because that's the second time it's done this to me, so I don't know what's up with it. Maybe like me, it's just getting old. So, right. Well, let's have a look. It says they come up here. Mark Albrighton.
Go on, Mike. You go first
for that one.
Oh, you want me to go first, do you?
Yeah.
All right. To be honest with you, I think he's had a good season. He's been a stand-in. He knows that. He's been that for a while now. He's Mr. Reliable. A lot of fans refer to him as Mr. Reliable or Mr. Fox. You know, he's the one that everybody loves. He's had a good season. When he's come on, he's done his job. He's improved the game as well. And without Harvey Barnes and the formation that maybe would include him a bit more, he's had to adjust to a left wing back role. I think he's had a good season personally. I'd put him in good.
Matt, not probably one of the best ever from any team. 3 signings.
Yeah, definitely. I'd agree with the good as well. I think. I mean, his crossing is just unbelievable. It's definitely the best in the team, and I'd like to see him take more corners for us. I know he started to take some now. I also think he's one of the most unlucky players as well, because most other clubs in the Premier League, he would be a regular every week. With us, he sort of fills in here and there. And there was a spell in the middle of the season where he had a run of games, and he looked fantastic. And I was thinking if he was 5 or 6 years younger, he'd be knocking on Southgate's door for the England squad as well. The other thing with Albrighton is that he's just a good servant to the club. He's, he never seems to, you never hear of him doing anything off the pitch. He seems to be, he misses a game, he's back in the team. He just gets on with it, doesn't he? Whenever he comes on, whatever position he's in, he rolls his sleeves up. You're going to get 100% with him. Yeah.
And again, I think the best thing you can say about Mark Albrighton is, he kept Cengiz Under out the team because he was. I think he was brought in for that role, and we know he's probably going to leave now. So I suppose putting him in would be obvious. But on his performances, Cengiz Under, come to you again, Brad. Where would you put Mr. Under?
This is a weird one because from the outside looking in, I would have said his performances were good at times. I would have probably put him in the average category for the amount of appearances we've seen him. But obviously something on the inside hasn't worked. Maybe it's something on training. Maybe he's just not up to the Premier League. And it's, the bulk that you're supposed to, a lot of wingers say they tend to have to bulk themselves up quite big to handle Premier League. So his time at Leicester, you'd put it in bad. But I don't think personally myself, I know he's really divided opinion. So I'd be happy to kind of go wherever you or Matt decide on this one. Because I want to put him in the, I want to say average, but I want to say poor. I'm going to have to say poor on her because he's not worked out for him here, and that plays on the mind. I'm going to put him in poor. I can't say he was bad because he had some good performances.
No. I mean, to be honest with you, he played 9 appearances. 6 of those, unfortunately, were losses, which probably says how Brendan used him more than his performances. 77% pass accuracy. It didn't work out for him, but Arsenal are interested in him, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he had enough opportunities to show the fans what he could do. And when I saw him, he was inconsistent, but there were flashes of brilliance as well. And you think, well, maybe he's got something. I remember a goal he created for Vardy, I think, that was really unselfish when he could have scored himself, and he squared it instead for Vardy. There's obviously something that's going on in something that Rodgers is seeing that he's not happy with, and that's why he's not been used as much. And I think you've got to put him in the poor category because when he came in, an exciting winger, an international with experience, I was sort of expecting he would be an option from the bench, somebody who can come on and change a game, a bit like Bale did at the weekend for Spurs. It'd be another option for us, and it just hasn't worked out for him for whatever reason that is. But it doesn't mean to say that he's not going to go on and be a different player somewhere else, a better player somewhere else.
I mean, I would have put him in average, but you two have gone for poor, so into poor he goes. Like you say, maybe he could have done more had he been played more. And I know there's a lot of rumours about sort of, was he coming up to how many games he had to play and we were guaranteed to sign it, or we had to sign him? I don't know, but maybe you say Brendan just didn't see him in his plans, and that's the big thing. But coming on to the troublemaker now, Brad, not yourself, but Mr. Amartey.
Poor.
I'll give you a sugar lump, Brad.
I know, right? Poor, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Didn't have a lot of time. He's been struck by injuries. It's not his fault, but hasn't filled me with the utmost of confidence when he's played throughout his career. He's been very shaky. Again, I know injuries affect that. I know you need game time, but compared to other players that have come to this club, if Under's in the poor section, then Amartey's got to be there. I mean, he doesn't even get any boxing points for me because he kind of threw gloves and shin pads for what it was worth. So, yeah, no disrespect to Amartey, a cup-covered defender against the lower leagues, solid as a rock. Maybe with a better fortune, he can get his match sharpness up and prove me wrong next season. But yeah, poor for me.
Matt, I mean, he played 12 in total. 4 of those were losses. Within those 12 games, he actually got 3 yellow cards. So a quarter of his games he was booked, but he didn't keep 1 clean sheet.
I mean, the thing with Amartey is that he's been here now for 5 years, and I don't know what his position is. Is he a right back? Is he a centre back? Is he a midfielder? He sort of plays in all of these, but he doesn't fill you with a lot of confidence. When he comes on and he plays, he's a completely different player. If he comes on in to be a centre back, Soyuncu, Fofana, Evans, and then you've got Amartey coming in. He's just not the same calibre as the other players that we've got. I think he's been poor. If he's one of those players that I wouldn't be surprised if he left at the end of this season. I mean,
my thought was, do we put him in poor, or do we actually even say goodbye to him?
I think it tells you something that at the start of the season, when we were looking for centre backs, we were playing Ndidi there. Fuchs, the left back, was playing central defence, and you've got Amartey there as well, who just didn't even get a look in.
So, were we going for poor, lads, or were we going for buy?
I think buy, personally.
You know what? Yeah, I'll change my mind and agree with that, because I could see him being one that we get rid of over the summer. Yeah. Go to somewhere like a Stoke. He'll do like a Kurt Zuma and go Stoke, somewhere like that, and go on have a good season.
Sorry, Daniel, but you were gone. Somebody else who didn't complete a full season, so we're going to be looking at his sort of abridged season. Stick with you, Matt, as we look at Mr. Harvey Barnes.
So, yeah, I mean, Barnes, last season, the only thing that was missing for him was his end product. This season, his goal ratio was just fantastic. He'd obviously been working hard at it, and he was scoring a lot of goals. He was causing a lot of problems, and I think he was causing problems for the defence, I should say, not for Leicester. And I think he was one of the reasons for Vardy's form dropping off, or his goals ratio dropping off in the second half of the season, because Barnes wasn't there. He created a lot. He was another attacking option. He scored a lot of goals. He for me would have been another dead cert for the Euros, the way that he was playing. And I'm convinced that if he hadn't been injured, that we'd have made the top 4. I think he could have made the difference and unlocked some defences in some of those games where we were struggling.
So where would you drop him into, Matt?
I'm going to say good, because of the fact that he wasn't there for the whole season. Right. But then we've put Justin in the brilliant, haven't we? So probably need to put Barnes in the brilliant as well.
Brad, 455 passes, of which 75% were on target, 9 goals. We missed him.
How many assists did he get?
Oh, and you were going to ask me the one thing I hadn't got up here. 1 second. 56. All right, if you want to be clever, he had 56 shots, 1 header, 12 with his left foot, 43 with his right foot, and I haven't got assists.
Right. Well, one thing I will say about Harvey Barnes is he burst onto the scenes. A lot of Leicester fans didn't want him to go out on loan, wanted him to start before he went to West Brom. He came back, was wanted on the pitch, got straight into the pitch, got asked to get forward more, be a bit more braver. So he came back next season, he got some assists, he got told to be a bit more selfish. If you're developing at a young age in a left winger and your manager's telling you to shoot more because he knows what you're capable of, that's a hell of a compliment. To say that the only thing he could pick as a flaw for him this season to work on was shoot more, because he's got it in it. The lad wants to learn. He's hungry. Well,
I can tell you now that he actually got the same number of assists as Wilfred Ndidi and Youri Tielemans, which was 4, and it was the 4th best in the club.
Yeah, so there you go. A winger that's was getting his assists until the injury was all but on double digits for goals. I mean, when did he get injured?
Yeah, I think we know where this is going, Brad, don't
this is
we? I
going
think it's going
brilliant.
to end up
You know
in
what I mean?
the
The
brilliant
kid's got to
one
go
there.
there.
Yeah,
I agree with Matt. He would have taken us into top 4.
yeah. Mr. Castagne, one of our Belgian delights. Brad, let's stick with you.
Out of all the signings and out of all the ones that were, all the players that played at left back, right back, centre back, and in goal at some point this season, with how crazy our injuries were, he actually impressed me. Really good, really hungry. Like him as a lad, think he's great in terms of football, because he said he came here to stop us, dropping silly points, which shows he's got the right attitude for the club. Think he's been good when he's played. Better on the right than he was on the left. He looked a bit lacking confidence, but he's willing to learn. He's always said that, which impresses me. I'm going to put him in the good category. I think he's been good. I think because he's had to play a bit on the left and he's not always had a good performance when he's been out there, I can't put him any higher, but I'd say he's had a good season for what he's played in it.
Matt, he played 27 games in the league. Very few people have played a full season for us. 52 tackles made, 129 recoveries, of which 117 were successful, and he is in the tackles the 4th best in the team, behind Ndidi, Tielemans, and Justin.
Yeah, I'll agree with the good. I mean, I think the thing with Castagne is that he's steady, isn't he? He's reliable. Yeah. He's consistent. I suppose for him, his worry has got to be that when he joined last summer, he was joining to be first choice. I think with the form of Justin on the left, and then when Ricardo is back to full fitness, he's probably not going to be in the starting 11 next season. Yeah.
So we're going to put him into the good. Well, yes. Yeah, it's going to be interesting next season. Sticking with you, Matt, Mr. Choudhury, the party man.
Yeah, so I mean, Choudhury's a strange one, because he's an old-fashioned midfielder, isn't he? He loves a tackle. Yeah. If he's playing, then sticking a bet on him to get a yellow card is probably a good way of making some money, as close to a dead set as you can get. He's behind Ndidi and Mendy. He's made a couple of mistakes, whether that's come because he's young, he's lacking the experience, and he's lacking the game time as well. He's never really had a regular run. He's a decent squad player, but I don't like to say it, because he's a local lad. He's come through the ranks, but I think it's probably time for him to go to another club now and get some first team football and try and improve that way.
So we're saying bye, are we? Wow. Okay, so. Brad.
It's not gone well for him this season, has it? It's not gone well for him at all. I think a lot of people at the start of the season, mainly because about 2 weeks before it, Mendy was leaving the club. I think a lot of people expected, when they heard Ndidi, when Ndidi got the injuries, they were going to expect Choudhury to take that place. Then I think the warning signs were there from him. When Rodgers convinces a player that was practically out the door himself to sign a new contract, and he's a player that plays in that position as well, he's not offering to sit on the bench for an extra year and be third choice. He's obviously looking to bring him in and play him, and that put Choudhury's confidence down. He does love a tackle, which I love for him. I do love to see him go in there and meet. Newcastle hate him, which is probably why their owner wants to sign him, because Mike Ashley just loves to piss Newcastle fans off. But I have to agree. I think his time's gone. I think January was a big sign of that. I think he'll be one of the first. He's going this season. Performances, he was poor to average, but yeah,
he goes. Well, let's follow him up, Brad, with Mendy then. If Choudhury's going, where do we put Mendy, who, to be honest with you, didn't do anything bad really at all. Did what was asked of him. I always preferred him coming on to Choudhury. I've got to be honest with you. I think he was very underrated.
contrast to how his time was going at Leicester this season. Reliable, solid, done a fair enough job when required of him. If he's happy with that, I'd like him here next year as cover. I thought he's very good squad rotation player. We'll need him again next season because of the competitions. I think he's had a pretty average season. Not done anything spectacular. Like the match reports, mate, he doesn't do anything spectacular, but he doesn't really do anything wrong. So, yeah, average.
No. Average. Matt?
Yeah, I mean, he had a good run of games, didn't he, at the start of the season? And, and he looked good, didn't he? Filled in for Ndidi when Ndidi went to centre-back. And, yeah, he looked good. It's not, he's not spectacular. He's not going to score you goals or get many assists. But, yeah, he's not doing a lot wrong either. I'd say average. But definitely a good squad player, definitely a good backup for Ndidi.
Brilliant. Okay, so starting to rush through these if we can a little bit now. Mendy would say, David said Mendy average, and Jason agrees with you both. You see, again, a little fan club here. Mr. Evans, Johnny Evans. Oh, I think he's had a brilliant season. But Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he's one of the most underrated defenders in the Premier League. How he's sort of flown under the radar for so long is just beyond me. And I think it shows, as we mentioned earlier, when he's playing people like Soyuncu, who's a completely different player. He steadies that defense. We just look a lot more solid, a lot more stable. I would say he's brilliant.
Brilliant. Brad?
Yeah, you know as well as anybody, Chris. Maybe I was overly critically harsh at Evans at times, but maybe that comes to the weight of expectation. For me, he has to go in brilliant because every time questions were raised of him, he showed his footballing brain. Brilliant. Yeah. He deserves to be in there.
Somebody then else that we criticised a bit at the start of the season, but made me put weight on with all the humble pie I had to eat. Brad, the Nacho man, Kelechi.
I was probably one of the few supporters that hadn't pulled out the hair in doing so, in trying to give reasons to keep having faith with Nacho. But the moment was grabbed with both hands, and he's still going strong with it. He took it right into the end of the season. It never petered out. There was always goals. I mean, in the end, I think Vardy only beat him by the 2 goals he got against Spurs for Premier League goals. I think they either finished level for club total, or Vardy might have just picked him because of that as well. Has to go in brilliant, because it's a brilliant turnaround. No, not a single Leicester fan, when he came on and got that first goal in a run, would have put him in brilliant. He's got to go up there for me.
Matt, I mean, I think the biggest compliment you can give Kelechi is the fact that they thought he had a poor game in the cup final, and because he'd played so well before that. Yeah,
I mean, it's a funny one, Iheanacho, because he came from Manchester City with a big reputation, a lot of money, and because of the way that we played with one up front, he never really had the opportunity. And I think he's a confidence player. I think he needs to run at games. He needs to feel love. He needs to know that he can score. And he's never really had that run of games until this season. And I think it's just, once he played and he scored, he got that confidence up, and he's just been on fire since then. I mean, the second half of this season, you definitely got to say he's been brilliant. And if he can carry that on, for a whole season, that's going to be the big question: is can he do what he's done for the last few months over a whole season? If he can, then he's going to be up there challenging for the Golden Boot by the end of the season.
And I think if we'd looked at last season, this next one would have got in the brilliant category. Not so sure this season, Matt. Mr. Maddison.
Yeah, Maddison's. He's had a very stop-start season because of injuries. He's done some stuff that's been absolutely brilliant. I mean, the goal against Manchester City, very, very well taken. He had a run of games, didn't he, where he was just on fire. He was either scoring or assisting, and then he got an injury again. And ever since he's come back from his latest injury, he's just looked a shadow of himself. Whether it's that he's not in the right place, whether it's fitness, I'm not sure. I mean, at the start of the season, he was above, in terms of the Euros, I'd have had him above Mount and probably above Foden. Now, you look at Mount and Foden and you just think he's miles behind them. He's got a lot of making up to do. The thing with Maddison is that we know that he's got the quality because we've seen it this season. We've seen it in previous seasons. He's just got to get that, and he's got to get the consistency back as well.
Yeah. So where would you put him, Matt?
I'm going to put him on average, but that's because with his ability, he should be brilliant. He should be up there with the brilliant. And I'm probably being a bit harsher, but because I've got higher expectations. But I'm going to have to say average.
Brad, he made over 1,000 passes, of which 83% reached their target. But it was flashes towards the end, but maybe that was, he was injured, and maybe, I'm not saying we brought him back too soon, but, maybe he could, in a normal season for Leicester, which, we were sort of mid-table, he wouldn't have been rushed back so much. So it's average for Matt. Brad, what are you going to do with Mr. Maddison?
Start of the season, he was good. He got injured. He was probably average. He seems to be a player that only really can get it going, not just when he's fully fit, but when the occasion's at its peak. And the fact that near the end of the season, Perez, who we'll get to, has probably been more influential for Leicester over the last couple of league games than Maddison has. It's been poor. He went from the start of the season to nailed on Euros to 3 or 4 players ahead of him. He's been poor. Maddison has. He really has been poor. I'd put him in a poor category personally, but I'll leave that to you, Chris, because I'm not changing from poor.
Okay, so I'm going to have to the first one you guys haven't agreed on, and I've had to, I think, step in and referee here. Poor or average is what I've got to go for. I think if we look at the season as a whole, I'm going to have to put... I feel like... Does anybody ever watch Room 101? I do feel a bit like... what's he called that hosts that? I'm going to have to put him in average because I think overall... Sorry, Brad, but overall the season...
Fair enough. Yes,
he was poor, but he was good at the start, and that just drags him above the poor. But I don't think we're going to have any disagreements with this next category. Somebody said here, have a new category, inconsistent. Maybe we should have done that one for Madders. But Brad, yes, Ndidi. I think I can guess where this one's going.
Brilliant. End of conversation. Next player, move on. He's been brilliant. Star man. Get him in.
Good.
Put him in
God,
there. Sorry.
I'm going to edit that bit out for you. That's the shortest answer in Brad's history.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Matt, Ndidi, brilliant. Speaks for himself. Yes, indeed, he does.
Matt, are we making this equally as quick? I don't think I need to quote any stats for him, do I?
He has been brilliant, and the fact that he's slotted into centre back at the start of the season as well. He's proved that he can play when he's needed. He's solid. You never see him have a bad game. He's either outstanding or he's sort of a 7 or 8 out of 10. So nobody better than tackling or breaking down play in the whole Premier League, and I'd include Kante in that as well.
Right, brilliant. Well, yep, he slots into the brilliant there. And Matt, let's stick with you for Ricardo here, who, again, not been his best season after the high standards he's set, and that's always a problem when you set high standards. Is keeping up to it, and we as fans expect if a player has a good game that every game's going to be good, but he has struggled since he came back.
Yeah, I mean, he had a bad injury, didn't he? And he was out for a long time. He's come back, but he's come back into a team that were playing very well, that was quite settled. And then I think because of the injuries that we then had to to Justin and to Barnes. I think he's been rushed back a little bit too quick. I mean, he came on, didn't he, in a UEFA Cup, Europa League game. I'm showing my age there, UEFA Cup, in a Europa League game.
Yeah,
I think he got injured, didn't he, in that game again? And I think we rushed him back, and because of that, he's not been able to recapture the form from last season. So I'd have to say average for this season, based on the expectations that he set last year.
Yeah. Brad, 15 appearances he's made. Tackles 31, 71% though of those tackles were successful. 15 interceptions, 53 recoveries.
Yeah, it's been an unfortunate season for him. I think we've seen throughout the years that any player that suffers with a long-term injury, it normally affects them. You know, it's the recovery on the pitch that can be just as long because they got to get their head around it mentally. He's backed out of a few tackles, sometimes not been willing to take on the man and surge him on in fear of getting taken out, which is perfectly understandable. You go for an injury like that, especially at his point in the career, it does play on your mind. So he's got to go in the average for me. You know, he hasn't done too much wrong. It's just not been the Ricardo we're used to, unfortunately.
Yeah. So you both agreeing on that. Brad, again, we'll start with you for Mr. Praet, who, for me, hasn't had the chances he's deserved, really. I thought we would have used him more.
I'm going to get this out of the way because it's a bit painful, because I really like the guy and I really don't understand how he's not managed to get himself in the mix, especially when we've discussed Maddison's form. I think he's going to be gone. I don't think he's happy with not playing first team football or as much football as he was expecting. And I unfortunately think there's no more room at the inn, as my father and mother were told. You know, so I think Praet will be by. I think he'll be gone.
What was it on his performances? Would you let him go?
On his performance, I'd say he was average, because for what we saw in the season, he was reliable.
I mean, that's what we're looking at, in fairness. And I agree. I think there are other clubs that are sniffing around, and we may not see him next season. But I think on his performances, you know, I personally, I'd like to keep him.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
But if we're putting Choudhury in for the same reason, that's the only reason I'd say buy, because we think he's going. But that's all it's Matt. I mean, if Matt thinks he's going to stay in, we'll put him average for his rating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
For me, Matt, Choudhury hasn't done enough to keep him, and I think he is further down the pecking order. And if people want him, I think his performances, there's a red card in him. Like, you know, you said yellow. I think there's a red card in him, and I would quite happily let Choudhury go. I can see Praet leaving, but I wouldn't want to see him go.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, he's when he's played, he's always, you know, he's been steady. He's looked good. He's a very capable deputy for Tielemans. But realistically, unless Tielemans is injured, he's going to play every game. I think for him, he must have been frustrated that he was behind Maddison and Perez in the pecking order. And even for the defensive midfielder role, Mendy and Choudhury were coming on instead of him. So I can see him going, but I don't want him to go. I think he's got a lot more to offer. I think he's a very good squad player, very good backup, and I think he could be even better if he got a regular run of games.
Do you think next season, Matt, do you think we're likely to see him? Because again, you know, this season we struggled, and he was injured as well, of course. Let's not forget, you know, at one point we had Maddison, we had Perez and Praet all out at the same time. But of course, we've got the Europa League, we've got the FA Cup, we've got the Carabao Cup, we've got the Premier League. Obviously, we're going to win everything next season. So could you see him playing more? You know, you say Tielemans going to play every game. He physically probably couldn't play every game.
Yeah, I mean, he might, but you know, Tielemans is going to play in the big games. Is he happy just to come in and play, you know, the Europa League games away to, you know, a Ukrainian side and then miss the, you know, the Manchester City big games, or are you going to want to be a starter somewhere else? I mean, I think a lot of whether he stays or goes is going to depend on what happens with Tielemans, because there are rumours, rumours that he's signing a new contract, and also rumours that he's off. I think if Tielemans goes, then Praet will stay.
Yeah. So would you agree with Brad then, if he stays, he's average?
Yeah, I think he's been average. It's just
average this
whether he
season.
decides to go or not.
Okay, so Matt, the the guy who this time last season probably none of us had really sort of could say a word about, but he's got more medals now than Chilwell or Maguire put together. Young Mr. Luke Thomas.
Yeah, I mean it's been. I mean he was called up. It was a bit of a shock last year for I think it was a Sheffield United game when he was called up, and he started. I think. For me, this season, he's you've really seen his development. He's becoming a lot more confident. He is definitely heading in the right direction. He reminds me a little bit of Justin last year, where he's still learning his trade. He's definitely got a lot of potential. I think his performance in the cup final was fantastic. I mean, I wasn't expecting him to be starting in the cup final. I was surprised it was him and not Albrighton in that position. But I thought he was solid for the occasion. I mean, don't forget that the cup final would have been the first time that he's played professionally in front of a crowd. And you play that Wembley in the FA Cup final and you're a teenager. I think he's got to go in the good based on, the expectations. I don't think anybody would have expected him to have really seen off Fuchs. Not Fuchs out of the team, not Fuchs out of the club, really. He's good based on his age, based on our expectations, and based on his potential.
Brad, 14 appearances. He got the odd goal as well, which wasn't a bad effort, really, was it? And had the confidence to tell the Jamie Vardy to get his ass out the way. 23 tackles made, 61% was successful, 51 recoveries, 65 duels won. Not bad for and of course a cup final medal. Not bad for a 19-year-old.
No, there's not many 19-year-olds that can say they've done that by that age, can they? Really, he's come on leaps and bounds. He instantly reminds me of a certain Harvey Barnes that plays on the same side as him. As an attacking role. He's probably a season behind. There's been the odd moment, of course, where he's still learning. I mean, for God's sake, he's 19. I'd hope he's still learning. He still makes the odd mistake, but that's been hypercritical, I guess. He's been pretty much decent throughout. He's very good, and he's going to be pushing with competition. We've seen what he can do. FA Cup final, held his nerve, scored that goal in the Euros, scored the goal against Man United. So he's not fazed by the game in front of crowds either, we've seen. So, yeah, good. I'd say he's had a good season. I wouldn't say it's brilliant because I think that's the potential for next season if he can break into that 11 with Justin being out injured. Yeah.
Mad, yes, we do have the Community Shield to play for. We are going to be playing Manchester City, and hopefully we'll be having a full house by the time that comes around. But yes, we will be playing for the Community Shield again, which we've already won, of course.
I was going to say we've already won that. Does anyone know the way we did it though? Had to get into it.
Yeah, we had to. We because about 3 of the teams couldn't make it, and we won the second division, or what was then the second division, or the second tier, I should say now, I believe. And didn't we win it on a replay? So I can't remember that much. But Tielemans, let's move on. Tielemans, Matt. I mean, one word really for Tielemans this season, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he needs to be in that stratospheric zone that Brad mentioned earlier. I mean, when he's just come on so much. When he joined on loan, he just looked like, why would Monaco even let him go on loan, let alone sell him? Last season, his form sort of dipped a little bit, I think. But this season, he's just been outstanding. He can tackle, he can pass, he can score. He's just got everything in his game. He seems to have the respect of the players. He seems to be a real leader. I can't think of anything bad to say. He just seems to be, the complete midfielder.
Brad, disagree, or I have a feeling you might be agreeing.
No, I think he was awful. We should get rid of him, put him in the bad category. It's what every fan of every other team would say about him because they're that desperate to get him. He goes straight in brilliant. He's taken the limelight off Maddison from last season. He is the biggest player that Leicester fans want to make sure they hear as soon as possible that he's not going anywhere. Get him in that brilliant category. Put him at the front of the list with Fofana.
Yeah, he's in there now. David Thomas has been very good for all the pressure that's put on him, so he agrees with good. And again, Yuri, brilliant. Yeah, I think we would all agree with Yuri. And Yuri, just get that contract signed, will you? Brad, let's stick with you for. I know where I'd put Mr. Vardy. Where would you put Mr. Vardy?
Legend. Club legend.
Yeah, but we're talking about this season.
Yeah, but he's been a legend this season as well. What did he end the season on? 14, 15 goals, 34 years of age. He must have got 8 or 9 assists throughout his season. And he's still outperforming some of the top strikers in the Premier League. It's a no contest. I have stated this, and I'd argue tooth and nail with any fan of any club that doesn't think he is. The guy's been world class. I mean, he's held that top Leicester scorer since that season.
He has. It's 15 goals this season. He's done the hat trick. He's got 13 with his right, 1 with his left, 1 with his head. 34 appearances, shot accuracy 46%.
That's unbelievable.
He's 8 penalties taken, 8 penalties scored, so you can't argue with that. Shots taken 46% on target. You see, to me, I guess you're putting him in brilliant there, Brad.
Oh yeah, definitely. Without a doubt.
Yeah, I must admit, Matt, I was going to put him in good because I think, if we hadn't had Iheanacho hit the form when he did, Vardy's lack of form, and I know he became a provider, but when he was shooting, and I think. To me, this summed up his season. In the FA Cup final, I think it was, he had a shot and it went wide or a header, I'm not sure which. And the commentator said the Vardy of old would have got that on target. And that's the only reason why I would drop him down to good. And I know he's been a hero for many, many years, but it's just this one season we're looking at. And, by his own standards, it's not been his best season.
I think goals-wise, he hasn't scored as many as he has in previous seasons, but I think that shows the quality of Vardy, the fact that he adapted his game. When you watch him play, you often hear the commentators mentioning that he's had the fewest touches of anybody on the pitch, but it's not all about what he does with the ball. It's about the runs that he makes. He draws defenders. He creates space for other people. With Barnes having to go, that meant that Vardy had to change his game slightly. With Iheanacho coming and playing up front, when Vardy's been used to playing up top on his own for the last 3-4 years since Okazaki went. He's had to change his game. Iheanacho we've put in there is brilliant because of his goal scoring, but I don't think he would have scored as many goals as that if it wasn't for Vardy making the runs, drawing defenders out of position, creating the space for the passes, creating space for the runs of everybody else. Yes, he's not scored as many goals in the second half of the season. And he's probably another one, like most strikers, that relies on their confidence quite a lot. And when you've missed a couple, it's hard to get back into that flow. But, look at his age. Look at what he's achieved over the season. Look at the rankings of the goal scorers in the Premier League. People are talking about Bamford and how good he's been, and he's scored fewer goals than Vardy.
Yeah, playing devil's advocate here, totally. Though, there was a few games before when he came back, before he got that pairing with Nacho when he just wasn't scoring. And I just asked the question, Matt, if Nacho had gone as many games, even if he was providing as Vardy has, without scoring, would we have put Nacho in where he is, just on assists only? You could say, Vardy was scoring every game and Nacho was, drawing players away and setting Vardy up. Would Nacho have got in the brilliant? And I just wonder if he would.
But Vardy's a striker. He was our top goal scorer. He's in, I don't know what the numbers are, but he's in the top 10, isn't he, of the Premier League? He has created a lot of goals, not necessarily assists, but, also creating it from other things. So, yes, it's a shame he didn't get up to 20, but he suffered from an injury as well. He probably came back too soon because of the pressure, because there was nobody else. I think if he hadn't scored so many goals in the start of the season and then so few in the second half, if he'd scored his 15 goals, like one every 4 games, and he'd been steady throughout the season, I don't think we would be having this discussion. It's just because he's scored lots and then not scored lots, but he's just been a different player in the second half.
Yeah,
and let's remember, if you actually check his seasons before, sorry, Chris, if you check his seasons before, there's a notable dry patch that he always has, and he still manages to get it. And another point I'd say is there's a certain Sergio Aguero that has been one of the best. He's talked about as one of the best Premier League strikers. And I don't know what his situation was at City. I don't know if he was constantly injured, but couldn't get a game when he was fit. Came on for sentiment in the end. Vardy's 34 and still managed 15 goals. I can't see how a striker who's 34 gets 15 goals can't be anything other than up there in a brilliant discussion. And I see where you're coming from, where he fell off the form. And I do get your comparisons with Nacho. You're right. If you took Vardy's goal out of it, I'd argue he'd struggle to get into the good because you'd see the decline. I just think the fact that he's managed to keep an even keel and do it better than others is why he goes into brilliant.
He's 7th in this season's scoring charts. Kane with 23, Salah with 22, Fernandes 18, Bamford 17, Son 17, Calvert-Lewin 16, and Jamie there at 7. So, Jamie, you're going into the brilliant. Not that as I say, I am. My job here is to sort of play devil's advocate sometimes. Now, Matt, you may want to sort of nip and get a tin helmet on now, because I'm going to pass this one over to Brad, and I'm going to hide under the desk because Brad, Mr. Perez, I'm just going to say go for it.
He's been so frustrating as a player, hasn't he? Oh my God, poor. He's been poor. He has been poor. I'm sorry. Every time since we've been doing this show, I've brought up Perez playing poor. I've had people come in the comments, rightly so, saying, "Oh, he was on right wing though, Brad. He's a professional footballer, being paid at 80, 150, whatever grand a week he's on. He's a professional footballer. If he has been training that position after 2.5 years, he should be able to do more than what he was doing. There's a reason Brendan completely dropped him from this team. He went off the face of the earth until the injuries and the structure and the formation changed. If we'd have stayed with a right wing formation and Harvey Barnes on the left, he wouldn't have played in a Leicester shirt again when that was last dated. I can convince you that. In fact, I put him in buy category. Get rid of him. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all your efforts. They weren't much, and they were great efforts, but they didn't do a lot for us because you're not of the top 6 quality, Perez. Bye. See you later. Join Choudhury on the outdoor.
Yeah, Brad Perkis, news at 10, Leicester. Matt, he 25 appearances, 2 goals, 42% shot accuracy. Only 13 of those were on, of his shots were on target. I'm struggling. He hit the woodwork twice. Big chances missed. And these stats, by the way, I'm not being unfair because these stats are actually off lcfc.com. So it's our own guys that are saying this. Pass accuracy, 77%. There's something Brendan sees in him. It was, Brendan went, he didn't even try and negotiate. He had a 30 million buyout clause. He bought him. The funny thing is, Newcastle fans wouldn't want him back. So I spent on a couple of their forums during the season. But Brendan, there's always one player that, fans don't understand why the manager likes them. Junior Lewis, Peter Taylor. But, there's, I don't know. Carry on, Matt. What do you think?
I mean, he's had opportunities, hasn't he? We spoke about Under earlier, who didn't have the opportunities. We've spoken about Praet, who didn't have the opportunities. You look at Perez, he's been here now for a couple of years. I'm not sure what his position is. Is he a striker? Is he a number 10? Is he a right winger? Because he's played in all of those positions, but he hasn't looked effective in any of them. He's had the opportunity with Maddison struggling, and he's just not taken it. I personally, you look at the rest of the teams in the top 6, and then you look at the teams on the periphery, like your West Hams and Arsenals. If Perez was up for sale now, would he go to Man City, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea? Would any of them have him? And they wouldn't. We were linked with Eriksen, weren't we, in January? And if he could have been the kind of player that you bring off a bench to change a game. That's really what Perez is. Perez sits on the bench. He is our only attacking option in most cases. He's the guy you look to come on, grab a goal, get an assist, make a change, and he just doesn't do it. So it's got to be a buy for me as well. I think it's time for him to go and time for us to get somebody else in.
Whoa!
Especially when he's back from loan. I'd rather see him being given an opportunity. I know they're slightly different players, but I'd rather see him have an opportunity in the squad than Perez. I think he's been there for too long now.
I must admit, I'd kind of, and I know it was Brad I said this to, or Craig, but I'd kind of sort of just accepted that he will always be in Brendan's plans in some form or another, and I was just going to sort of have to learn to accept that. For that reason, I would have probably stuck him in Paul, but taking on board the fact that you mentioned the big clubs wouldn't have him. I think the fact that Newcastle didn't want him back, or the fans didn't want him back, probably says it all. So Perez, I'm sorry, but you are going in the bye-bye box. There we go. Now, guys, don't get excited, and I do know that it looks like we're going to talk about Demarai Gray, but we are not. He just happened to be in the group of players that I uploaded from my website.
No, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. He deserves that.
I could have put Gazelle. We've got Gazelle coming back anytime. Let's not get too excited. But let's end with the Mad. What makes you want to cry, mate? What makes you want to cry? Tell us, please. Matt, manager, Mr. Rodgers.
You can't put anything other than brilliant. I know that the forums since Sunday's game have been, there's lots of people who are saying that, we bottled it and we chucked it away and made poor decisions and things like that. I think when you look back at what we've achieved this year, to win the FA Cup, to beat Manchester United, to beat Chelsea, to get through a semi-final I just think it's incredible. What he's achieved, and I think this, for me, being a fan, winning a cup is more important than the league. I mean, can you remember, either of you, where we finished in 97 or where we finished in 2000, the same year we won the League Cup? Most fans probably can't remember what position we finished in, but they can remember where they sat at Wembley. They can remember Claridge's goal. They can remember Elliott's goal. That's the thing for me as a fan. It's about winning. It's about winning the cups. It's about that. Having for the players, for having the medals. We finished 5th in the league. We won the FA Cup. We finished 5th last year. We got to the semi-final. There was talk about whether Rodgers was kind of, not quite good enough. Like, he can get you to 5th, but not 4th. He get to a semi-final, not a final. He's proved this year that he's a winner. He's won something for us. I think this is just the start for us. We've got a really good team.
We finished 10th.
I was going to say 10th as well, I think, and possibly 9th one of the seasons. I think it was 9th and 10th. Matt's not going to say. He's going to keep us.
No, I can't remember.
You can't remember.
It will be in the book. But I mean, it was all of it. It's about winning the cup. That's the thing. They're the players that you remember. They're the games that you remember. And I think finishing fifth is brilliant. Yes, it's a shame the way that it fell apart. And I might be on my own with this, but I would take the FA Cup and fifth place. I'd have taken the FA Cup and eighth place, to be honest, against fourth place and no trophy.
I mean, we'd actually discussed this beforehand, and you know, the question is yes, we would. I think we were all of a certain age would have taken.
That was
the FA
definitely
Cup.
around the time when we finished around 10th or 11th per season.
Oh yeah, definitely was. And I'm just looking here, Brad. Brendan's win ratio currently, I'm going to say currently, is the best of any manager we've had. His win ratio since he's been with us: 111 games in charge, 58 won, a win percentage of 52.3%. Now, the best before that was Nigel Pearson's first stay with us at 51.4. Claudio only managed 44.44. So at the moment, he is up there, and it can be frustrating at sometimes. You can look at him and think, what have you done? Why have you picked him? But that would be the same with any manager, wouldn't it, Brad?
Yeah, it would be. Look, there's always been a lot of questions about Brendan in regards to his manager. A lot of neutrals, a lot of pundits were always talking about that certain season he had managing Liverpool, you know, where Crystal Ball happened to them, 3-0 up, 3-all. Gerrard slip. Could he really do it at the top level? Was he going to be known as a manager that could probably go elsewhere like he did at Celtic and win everything? But when it came to the bigger leagues, which is no disrespect to the Scottish League, but you know, bigger league, Premier League, was he going to be a nearly man? You know, the Villa semi-final last year, that could have knocked the stuffing out of them, you know. And, you know, we give a lot of praise to the players for this year for how last season ended and how they picked themselves up and what we've gone on to achieve this year. There's not a single Leicester fan out there that even if they were told they would lose fourth place on the last day of the season, would not snap your hand off for fifth and the FA Cup.
And of course, you're in a position where you've got one managerless club and one club where the fans wish they were managerless in the London Spurs and Arsenals that would bite your hand off for him. So take from that, Brad, definitely. He's going to end up in the old brilliant pile.
Definitely, 100%.
I think the other thing to remember as well is there's a big focus on, you know, the league table and the results, but I think you also need to look at what Brendan's done off the pitch. So you look at that brilliant category there. You've got people like Justin, you've got people like Barnes, Iheanacho, Tielemans. Brendan's obviously done, and his coaching staff have obviously done something with those guys to develop them and to improve them off the field. So I think he deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, because that list could look a lot different if he hadn't been around to help push their development as well as he's done.
Yeah,
I think you're right there, Matt. Spot on,
guys. We've done it. We've gone through the team, and we did leave Mr. Gray out, and we didn't include Mr. Gazelle. So we have done very well. And I don't think we've been totally unfair. I think we've probably got everybody spot on there.
Yeah,
would you agree?
Yeah, looks a good list.
Matthew, I'm going to say thank you so much for popping on and joining us, and don't forget, go to Blue. Or what would we say? It was Blue Army Publishing, and buy What If. Great book, great read, and makes you chuckle. An alternative history of Leicester City. But we're not doing so bad with our own history at the moment, are we, Matt?
No. If you tried to write an alternative history at the moment, it would probably be all doom and gloom.
But you're going to have to do one now. Not what if, but what happened or something like that. Yeah. But Matt, thanks so much for joining us, mate. Thanks for coming on and putting your thoughts in. Thanks very much. Take care, and we'll speak soon. All the best. Bye-bye. Brad, Thank you as always, sir. I know you're a busy man, and come, with your wine to water and your feeding of the 5,000, it keeps you busy. Thanks for coming on. First time we've done one of those. Might do another one with a different topic soon.
Yeah, they're always interesting. They're quite a popular choice as well. So you guys in the comments, let us know if there's anything you'd like Chris to maybe come up with an ideas, and we'll bang our heads together and maybe come up with something, because I enjoyed that.
Yes, that was good.
It's always easier when you have a good season, though, isn't it? Because if it was a bad season, you maybe put them all in the selling category.
Had it been a bad season, you'd have seen them a lot further down the list, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Brad, thanks very much, mate, as always. Speak to you soon.
Mate.
Cheers.
Enjoyed it as always, mate.
Cheers.
And you, buddy.
Oh, thanks to Brad there. We'll be back straight after this.
Leicester Till I Die TV, home of the FA Cup winners.
Never forget we are. So my thanks to Brad, my thanks to Matthew, and we will see you next Tuesday with another special at 7:00, and then next Thursday at 7:00 we have got a 1-to-1 when we'll be talking to Julian Watts, who comes on here regularly, helps us out, gives us his opinion. We'll be looking back at his career, and I need to ask him how he felt about heading that ball down for Steve Claridge to shin it into the goal, and also what did he know about the goalkeeper substitution? Was it planned? Wasn't it planned? Find out next Thursday. See you Tuesday at 7. Take care, guys. Stay safe. Goodbye now.
Yeah. Be sure to watch Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and follow all them social media platforms for all the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye, and see you next time.
Some people are on the pitch, they think it's all over. It is now.